You were listening to The Objective Jerk, and I am said jerk. So I just had this guy brandish a shotgun in the restaurant I was eating at earlier. That was cool. Yeah, talk about that more later. What's up? How's everybody doing? Is everybody doing well? Anybody watch the fight? That's originally what I was going to talk about, and then this stupid thing. Or maybe I'll just get through. I don't know. I think I'm going to talk about it longer than I will. So I'm trying to get my notes to see what I was going to talk about. I think that's for another time. So I'll talk about today, my day. So for me, the fight was this morning. So it's Sunday morning for me. And so while everybody else is like, drinking beer and whatever and this and that, I'm drinking coffee while I watch the fight on Netflix, the first MMA fight on Netflix. So it's kind of cool. I'm not gonna pay pay-per-view to watch UFC. I'm just not. I do kind of want to start watching One Championship, which is the Asian, area. So that makes more sense for where I'm at. Because for one, I can watch things at night instead of the morning. Although I kind of like doing stuff in the morning anyway. But, I wouldn't mind having like a little scotch or something while I watch a game, or maybe, I don't know, sometimes. But yeah, so watch that. It wasn't, you could tell there was, a little bit of a learning curve. There was lots of little audio discrepancies and little tiny, like, people are supposed to walk out and they don't, or it's time, they're off, they're supposed to walk, they stop. Or they start to walk and they're like, oh, can't walk yet. They go back, and I'm talking about the fighters when they're getting ready to. So just like little stuff like that, you kind of notice. And then for me, the commercial breaks, so when I clicked on it, or probably anybody who clicked on it, it said, and I hadn't seen this before, or I hadn't noticed it before. It said that this event is part of your subscription, but includes paid advertisement or paid promotional material or something like that, right? So I was like, man, what the hell, paying, and then it's gonna have commercials and crap, but it didn't have the commercials. It just had like a little screensaver with a countdown, which is, I'm guessing people in the States or in other countries probably had some sort of commercials or something at that point, but for me, where I was at, they didn't have it, so it was just, so whatever, I guess. But yeah, it was cool. It was quick. It was like, what, the first 3 fights were done in the first round, knockouts, and then Diaz at least went to a second round, but then he got cut so bad, so that it got stopped, which kind of sucked. And then, man, the Carano and Rousey fight happened pretty much as you would expect, I guess. I mean, you hoped for something else. I mean, as a fan, that sucked, right? She just immediately goes in, gets the armbar, done. But from a fighter's perspective, or from her perspective, it was a smart move, you know what I mean? But from, I'm fairly certain that the people in charge of MVP or whatever were a little not too happy that the fight didn't go on a little longer, But I mean, given Ronda Rousey's history, when she's kind of tried to take it to staying on her feet and doing that, she got her ass whooped. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it was a smart move for her, but as far as like selling a product and stuff like that, I don't know what if it was like, hey, can you guys at least do this for so long, or if they just was like, hey, do whatever. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking that was the case. I don't think they were like, hey, try and stay on your feet for the first whatever. Because, yeah, it was just like she immediately like speared her, took her down, got her an armbar, boom, it was over in like 14 seconds, if that. So it was not surprising. It was disappointing, but also understanding at the same time. Does that make any sense? you hoped for more of a battle. I wanted to see Gina Carano, do some of her shit a little bit. But it's maybe if Ronda Rousey would have stayed on her feet, Gina would have got her. I wonder if they'll do another one. Maybe they'll do a part 2. Anyway, so yeah, so there was that, and then so it's pretty hot here right now in the Philippines. It's like full on summertime right now. Excuse me. So don't man. Excuse me. I don't want to. It's kind of hard to really do anything. It's just so hot. You just want to sit in front of a fan or air conditioning. More so a fan because I got my electric bill yesterday and it was pretty damn high because whatever. Anyway, so my wife was like, hey, let's go get some halo halo, which is like I talked about before. It's like the Filipino kind of dessert kind of thing. And we get it from this restaurant that's kind of like it's a cross between like a McDonald's and a Panda Express, I guess you could. It's called Chow King, so it's basically like fast food Chinese food. But I think the food is better than McDonald's or with Jollibee or whatever. So we went there and we're eating, and I always sit with my back to the wall so I can see everything that's going on. Whether that's because I was in the military or I was law enforcement in the military or because of my deployments, whatever. A lot of people who've experienced, certain threats, on a regular basis, you end up, living your life even if there are no threats. But today, as we were sitting there, were we eating yet? Yeah, I think we did have our food. I think we just sat down and started eating. So we're sitting there, and I'm pretty situational awareness. I'm on my phone a little bit, but not much. I'm not really on my phone that much out in public. I'm always just kind of looking around. I'm not like the Terminator, like dun 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 dun. But I mean, I'm looking around, looking at people outside the car, just that kind of crap. And we're sitting there, and like where our booth is at, we're right up against like the window on the that separates the restaurant from the drive-through, and then my back is against, I guess, probably the bathroom or some. I don't know what's behind me, but so I can see basically the whole restaurant and the front, and then part of the drive-through, right? And so we're sitting there, and an individual who at the time appeared to be an employee or some kind of worker picking up garbage, because he pulled up in like a motorcycle talk thing, which is like a thing I drive. It's kind of hard to really explain this to people. But you guys seen like the Indian have those little 3-wheeled cars? Indiana Jones movie, the last one, which I didn't see. The RE, the Bajaj, that's what it's similar to that, but it's like part motorcycle. It's like a flatbed motorcycle, like trike, a 3-wheeled motorcycle trike, with a flatbed on the back. I guess that's a better explanation of it. So he pulls up, and I see him step inside, grab a trash can, and he's putting the trash in the little motorcycle thing. And I'm not at this point, I'm not like thinking anything. I'm just watching him eating, whatever, this and that. And then he's doing some stuff, and then he grabs what looks like a shotgun, like a pistol grip shotgun. And I'm like, is that a fucking shotgun? And for like a split second, and then it's like he's kind of laughing. I can see it's like it's not legit, but he grabs the shotgun and he it's a toy, I'm assuming, but it looks like a real one. And it looks like a one that is carried by a lot of security guys here in the Philippines. And he like points it at like his coworkers. He's like, and they laugh and whatever. He puts it there and he goes away, right? And I was like, that dude just like because my wife heard me say like, she heard me like say to myself, "Is that a shotgun?" And I was like, "Dude, he's got a shotgun or a toy or something." And then it was pretty quick, and but then it was like she turned around, she saw, she's like, "What the crap?" And so he, put it away, and he drove past us down the drive-through. And so then my wife was like, she spent some time in the States, been around me. She's worked for the government, so she's gotten a lot of active shooter training and various things like that too. So she's she's a little more in the know with that stuff. And so she went up to, and asked to talk to the manager to tell him what was going on, and I guess they were, they thought it was funny. They didn't, whatever, this and that. But so my wife is flipping out. I wasn't flipping out, but, I went from normal, whatever, to like heightened. I don't know. It's like you see something like that, and it was only for like a second. It was like a split second, like, oh shit, something's going on. It's, like I picked up on it pretty quick that it wasn't any kind of like real threat. Now, I mean, if I wasn't watching the guy and I was something else and I looked right when he was pointing it at, and I was thinking like a shot, could have been different. Or if I was right next to him, and saw it like at the last second and maybe try and grab it from him or whatever, and be like, what the fuck, it's a toy? Or I don't know. Not that I'm like, John Rambo or anything, but the only thing I have is a knife on me, which isn't. Anyway, God, I'm getting all kinds of like messages. But so, she's talking to them, and she's like, it doesn't appear to be, like they don't think it's whatever. They don't think it's a big deal. And then, and my wife is like thinking about what she's going to probably let the police know. Oh my gosh, dude. I set my camera up front to notify me when there's a person in the thing, and my wife's, and okay, I listen to my podcast, and I say this all the time, but it's like I'm really trying not to get through what I'm trying to say so fast, because I'm just like, blah, 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 the thing. Anyway, so I have a camera out front, and I turned on a settings to notify me when it picks up a person in the front of my yard, the front gate. And so my wife is out there right now talking with her cousin, so they're walking around and they keep, setting the thing off. So that's what keeps kind of going off. I know there's a lot of times like I don't want to explain what I'm trying to explain, even though I started to explain what I was going to explain, and then I never finish it. So I'm really trying not to do that. Anyway, but the reason I do that though is so I don't lose track of what I was talking about. But anyway, so so my wife goes and asks for the manager. The manager does come, and he brings the guy that did it, and she proceeds to yell at him in Ilocano, blah 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 blah, and I don't know exactly what she said, but I think she was just like, public place, you shouldn't be doing that, whether it's a toy or not. My husband's, veteran with PTSD, he sees that, and it's like, just, kind of explaining how it's kind of not cool. And they apologized at the end, and that was it. My wife was more mad than I was. Like for a second, I was like, oh shit. But then it went away and I realized, okay. But I mean, it kind of just, I was thinking about it, like, it's kind of, I mean, it's retarded, dude, to do that. I mean, it's easy for me to say that growing up in the States where more people have guns and, they're active. I thought I turned this down, man. What the crap, dude? Move that over there. And there's a lot of active shooter incidents in the States, right? Some of them are real, some of them are fake, but they do happen. And it's, it's kind of, I guess, unfair to really criticize the people here in that regards, because it's different here, but with that said, though, I mean, they have things that happen here. There was a year ago, I talked about it on my podcast. There was a barangay captain who was gunned down by some people, like down the highway a ways. And we drove by it like probably a half hour after it happened. There were still bodies in the truck. There's bullet holes all over, and you can see blood. And you know what I mean? Like, it was a massacre. So I mean, the stuff happens here, but it's not the same as in the States. You get a lot of like kids who are just fucked up or whatever it is, and they want to go and teach some bullies a lesson or whatever. But here, there is gun violence and whatever. There are criminals who have guns, and case in point, the shooting I was just talking about. But it's like it's a hit though. Like, people are guns for hire. Like, that's, my wife is always telling me, like, when we're driving through certain areas, this area here is known for contract killers, basically, like people who will kill somebody for money. They aren't necessarily a professional or even experienced, but they're just willing to do it. And so it happens. I talked about the lady on the bus, but it was somebody that knew her and they were trying to get him out. So just like a random active shooter, which that happens more in the States, where it's just somebody goes somewhere and starts shooting people he has no idea or who they are. So here it's like usually there's more of a reason, I guess you could say. But I mean, down south, obviously you have a lot of Islamists, the blowing up, shooting stuff, and then here you do have the NPR, the communist kind of group that were like a problem back in the day. They're still around, but they don't really do anything anymore. At least not on a big scale, large scale. But then, at the college that my son goes to, they had somebody call in saying they're going to like shoot the school, an active shooter kind of thing. And they've had bomb threats. I think it's just people trying to get out of doing, like, they weren't ready for some assignment or something, and so they call that in to get out of it. I don't know. Or, people just trying to, I don't know, who knows? Just stupid shit, And, but, I don't know, it's just, so it's like I'm trying to understand, like, the, this dude, I don't know, even with everything I just said, it is kind of stupid what he did. Especially when the restaurant is like full of people, I mean, if it's like, it's not cool regardless, but to me, it'd be more understandable if it was late at night, no one's, eating in the restaurant, they're cleaning up, getting ready to close, and, maybe somebody came in at the last minute and happened to see something or whatever, and that's when he was doing it. Hey, it's stupid, but okay, whatever. But doing it in the middle of the day when there's people there, it's like, what the fuck are you thinking, dude? Like, that was pretty ignorant. But, that's why they say ignorance is bliss, man. Like, this guy has no idea how stupid that was, because he just lives in his own world and doesn't pay attention to the news or whatever, because he's ignorant, and he's probably much happier. I don't know, it's just kind of crazy. Yeah, the whole ignorance is bliss thing is it's true, but so that, I don't know, like, I'm getting a lot better with, but I don't know, the thing that sucks is, like, every time we do go to places, I sit in certain places for that reason, and I'm always like thinking about, okay, if somebody comes in, what can I do? What are we gonna do? And I actually was like, when we were sitting there where we were at, it's like, okay, I can see stuff coming, but I can't really get to anything quickly. Like, I'm kind of, So it probably would have been better. And I thought about this because I sat in a booth in the corner. There's a table that goes to the bathroom or whatever. So it's like, okay, so if we're sitting here and somebody comes in, we can at least kind of get behind some cover pretty quick. But then I was like, whatever. But then this guy, the shotgun, and it's like, oh shit. And then, I don't even know if it was a toy or if it was real. It probably was. I'm assuming it was a toy. He probably found it, I don't know, laying around somewhere. And so he was like showing it to his friends. Oh, look at it. I don't know. He thought it was funny. But yeah, it does kind of sucks though. Because like, it's like, that's kind of this. That's why I don't really go out. I don't go out much. Becoming agoraphobic. Oh man, I don't have my phone. Is that what it is? I think I said that before. Agoraphobia, right? Is the fear of going outside. But it's not like I'm afraid. I don't know. It's just crap like that. But I actually, plus the way they drive. Dude, Filipinos, man. You guys suck at driving. Dude, yesterday, I know I talk about this a lot, but this is a prime example, right? So yesterday morning or late morning, I was leaving the gym, and so I'm pulling out of the gym parking lot, and onto the road, which is the highway, the one single highway that runs up and down, Yes, there are many roads in like little towns or cities or some farmlands, but there's not like, okay, I'm going to go up Main Street. Oh, Main Street's blocked. Okay, I'm going to go down 2 blocks and go up something avenue, Pacific Avenue, whatever, right? No, that doesn't exist. You got Highway 2 and that's it. And gosh. Awesome. Good times. And so I'm getting ready to pull out, take a right onto the highway, and you have like a shoulder part for people to park, and then you have a little bit of the shoulder where like the mopeds and the tricycles, especially the slow ones that they drive on, and then you have the road, which is going to the right, which is the way I'm going. So there's 2 cars parked right there on the shoulder, so I had to kind of, creep out a little bit so I could look down and see if there was any mopeds or any tricycles coming up the shoulder, so I could just pull out. And then I usually drive down the shoulder because I'm turning. It's just like, I don't know, 50 feet away. Not even that. Yeah, probably about 50 feet, I guess. And so I creep out, I pull out, I'm looking. Okay, it's clear. And then I hit the gas, and then I immediately I have to jam on the brake because some dipshit is driving the wrong way on the shoulder. So he's driving this way. So he's going the opposite direction on the shoulder area. And it's like, dude, what the fuck? It's like, it's this crap right here, man. It's these things like this that just, I don't know. My son's like, man, he's like, Dad, you gotta find yourself a good friend, a good solid mate. Oh, that sounds bad, but like mate, like English, Australian mate is what I meant. But, just another male who's around my age, because a lot of the guys I kind of do hang out with occasionally are older than I am. But, man, I just know that, like, if I met some dude and we got along and we had a lot of the same interests and we hung out a lot, and then if he went anywhere and drove and I was his passenger and I witnessed him driving like a moron, I would be like, I'd lose respect, like, I don't know. Now, a lot of people are like, well, it's culture and you gotta get with the program and how it's like, okay, yeah, there are a lot of things like the way they turn early. I mean, there's a lot of things that they do which is more culture, and it annoys me, but it's like, okay, I get it. But driving the wrong side on the road is fucking stupid. But trying to pass somebody on a highway on a curve is stupid, or passing somebody on a blind hill where you can't see what's coming up around the other side is stupid. Okay, that culture doesn't matter. That's just stupidity. You know what I mean? Pulling out into traffic without looking is stupid. And so it's like that's the kind of shit where I'm just like, oh my gosh, dude. So I mean, the little piddly stuff the things that they do and whatever, like four-way stop signs where they don't stop, whatever. Okay, a lot of it's the system. It's failed them, whatever. But those few things, like I mentioned, is just stupidity. Yeah, I'm sorry, but you're gonna lose my respect, and I'm just gonna be like, you're a fucking moron. I don't think we can hang out. Because I don't know. I mean, I guess I could try and educate the person, but who am I? This is his country, right? I don't know. It's just, that's a lot of the reasons why I don't go anywhere. Now, again, like I used to, man, my temper was really bad and really short. And, I came close to a couple times to possibly assaulting someone and going to jail here and maybe getting told to kicked out of the country or something, you know what I mean? Because of that kind of crap. So to kind of, not put myself in that position, I stopped going out a lot. And I'm fine with it, really. I like to be home anyway. I've always been a homebody, but now I have a homebody plus PTSD and, whatever kind of crap. But I don't know. It's just, it's kind of weird. It's a little, and I think about like if I go back to the States, how I would feel or act or anything. I don't know. If it would be, I'm trying to remember how I was when I left. But I was on all kinds of, that's when I was first. Yeah, but the road is different though. I mean, yeah, there was possible whatever, but driving in the States, most people know the rules and abide by them. Not everybody, but I always say like 90% of the people in the States can drive pretty decent, have, some sense of, right and wrong and don't drive like an idiot. But you got like 10% of the people who are just complete morons who cause the accidents or almost cause the accidents or drive reckless, whatever. Here it's the opposite. 90% of the people are a bunch of idiots that cannot drive. And you got like 10% that are actually decent drivers. And yeah, so it's just like, so you got that, and then you have this thing with the kid with the shotgun. I mean, he wasn't a kid. I don't know how old he was. He's 20, 21, I'd say. But I don't know, like it's not. I understand like things are. He hasn't lived the life that I lived, but even so, people, you can't think that that's not a big deal to just. I mean, if it was like a super soaker that was neon yellow, this and that, and you're like, okay. I mean, that's kind of childish or whatever, but this gun looked real, it was like life. It was like realistic size. It was black, I mean, it could have been real. I didn't touch it. So I don't know. Maybe it was real. I don't think so, but, it's just, it's just not smart. I don't know. I mean, and see, here's the thing. It's like, yeah, okay, if he did that in the States, dude, he could easily get shot, right? But the States is a little different. Police are a little different. Here, the cops don't really care. They're kind of lazy, and even if, and they would just try and play it down because they don't want to do paperwork. Oh no, I don't know. It's just different here. That's all. Anyway, that's all. Just BS. And again, what's up? Anyway, Let me know what you think. Do you think that was, reckless of the individual? Do you live here in the Philippines or wherever you? I know I got a lot of people in different countries listening to this, but if something like that happened in the country you live in, what would happen to that individual? Anyway, that's all. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate your time. God bless, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye.
Say something for the podcast. Tell the people what you feel.